So today we're taking a break from the growth marketing training I've been doing, and I'm just going to dive in a little bit to make sure we all remember why we're doing this. Or maybe me remembering will help somebody else remember. I am 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks out from, actually today is 3 weeks out from the first of 2 back-to-back surgeries I had to take a piece of tissue from my back and build a new breast on the left side. And this was after a failed flap. I had the deep flap in January after mastectomy from breast cancer. And I always think it's going to be easy to talk about, and it never is. So my diagnosis was last October, November. I had a mammogram in October. I had a diagnostic mammogram and a biopsy in November and got the diagnosis. It was about 15 millimeters, so 1.5 centimeters in my right side. An MRI in preparation for deciding about surgery or a lumpectomy indicated some cells that didn't look good on the left side as well, and that should be biopsied. So that led to the decision to just go ahead and do the double mastectomy and get the deep flap, DIEP, deep flap reconstruction, where they take abdominal tissue to rebuild. And everything was successful. A few days after surgery, after I got home, there were some indications that there was a problem on the left side, and the left side basically, when the flap failed, it just liquefied and the fat kind of leaked out the incisions. At the same time, I had contracted an infection called Pseudomonas, which was keeping the wounds from healing, which caused all kinds of other problems. So the fat leaking out the incisions was because of the failure, but also because of the Pseudomonas, because those incisions weren't healing. So this led to removing that tissue and putting in a tissue expander a couple of weeks later. And every time I got off antibiotics, there were problems. So come to find out, the Pseudomonas was just using the material of that tissue expander to hide when I was on antibiotics. And it led to other problems. There were other possible secondary infections that came back in much later cultures because they were very slow growing, slow mitosis, AFB bacteria. So we had to take everything out. And the right side had some wound care problems and things like that because of the Pseudomonas, but it was coming along nicely. We were dealing with it. And after we went through a third surgery in March, got some IV antibiotics and an infectious disease doctor, and finally got healthy from that respect, and still had what one nurse referred to as a flat tire on the left side. So the gallows humor is everywhere, right? We do what we need to do to deal with it. And so we needed to wait long enough to have everything healthy to go back in. So that was targeting August, September. And it ended up being the beginning of November because 2 different doctors needed to confirm. My doctor, who was trained by one of the pioneers in the field of doing these flap surgeries for breast reconstruction. My doctor is Dr. Tandon, and Dr. Allen, one of his mentors, is one of the pioneers in the flap procedures. So I went in on November 1st and 2nd. And on November 1st, they pulled the tissue from my back and left the blood supply. So over 24 hours, it beefed up. And then the next day they went in and rebuilt the breast on the left side. It's a little out of position because of how we needed to connect how the doctors needed to connect the vessels and all that stuff. So there's still one more small surgery in my future to do the touch-ups and tattoos and all those things that they do. So my point in sharing all this is that's life. And it was expected that this was going to be a couple of months of terror followed by surgery. The surgery was successful. Look, the mastectomy was successful. The cancer was out. And I'm going through survivorship. medical care with a medical oncologist and a nurse practitioner, and that's all amazing and very good and very supportive. There's a great community, and the fear doesn't go away. So I am now full circle a year from that diagnosis, actually a year and about 10 days, and I just feel like I can breathe again. It feels like for the whole year, I've been waiting for what other terrible thing might happen. So now that we finally have the last reconstruction done, I feel like I can run my business again, and I can take on new clients, and I can do the work that needs to be done for those clients, and I can take on new students and give them what needs to be done. And I don't know why it took the whole year for me to feel like that again, but I know that there are probably some other people out there who feel a little bit of that as well. So me oversharing today, maybe there's somebody else who's getting that breast cancer diagnosis who just needs to know you're not alone. And it does get better. And yes, there are great communities out there. There are millions of other women out there that are survivors that have had all kinds of types of breast cancer. I am so fortunate. Mine was one of the most common. I remember the day that the radiologist gave it to me. She was like, "This is garden variety breast cancer." And she explained in context that this doesn't mean it's not to be taken seriously. It just means it is the most common. It's the one that they've been dealing with the longest, that there are the most cases of, the most history on, so that the treatment is very good. And the survival rate is high 90%. So for me, that means that when I did the mastectomy, they got the entire tumor out. They did research or did some testing on it to help test my likelihood of recurrence and all those kinds of, if I needed chemo or radiation, which I didn't. My risk of recurrence is a little bit higher than they would like. However, the likelihood of chemo helping that not happen was less than 1%. So there was no need to do the chemo. So for me, it was all of the complications from the cure that caused all of my challenges, right? We got the cancer out, we did the reconstruction, and then I had all these complications. And I was really sick for about 2.5 months in the spring. And then I still had very low energy for another 2 or 3 months after that, while I was sort of getting things back on track, because I had been doing very little, like walking laps around the island in my kitchen and things like that. Not much beyond that, because I wasn't able to. I would get out of breath very easily. So now I've had this last round of reconstruction, and I am just waiting for things to heal, and everything appears to be on track and healing properly, and it all looks great. And I'll have that last touch up sometime in February, probably, of 2023. So I am sharing this because if you know somebody who's been diagnosed with breast cancer, every case is unique. Every person's journey is unique. And sometimes just sitting there and having coffee with someone, they don't need to talk about it. They probably don't want to talk about it all the time. Let them know you're there. Let them know that you care about them. And this week during Thanksgiving, be vocal about the things you have to be thankful for. I am so thankful to be alive, to be able to support my kids, and to be able to be a good partner to my husband, and to still be here for my mom. And so I know that we all have a lot of things to be thankful for. Take that inventory and show your gratitude to the people that you love, and take time to slow down from work or business or hustle and grind or whatever it is that you're doing, just to enjoy being and to be thankful for the fact that you're here. So that is my rant. That is my oversharing probably for the year. And if you have any comments or want to share anything, I will put some links below. I'll put links to the websites for the 2 doctors that I mentioned, because my doctors are absolutely amazing. And if there's anything that I can do for anyone out there with that diagnosis that you're a little lost on the navigations, I don't have all the answers for sure, or even all the links to share. But if you're if you're fighting through that or navigating it, or you know someone that is, and you're looking for some guidance or some things to Google to help or whatever, I've got lots of Amazon products that I used during all of my challenges after my surgeries when I was dealing with a lot of things I didn't think I'd need to be dealing with. So I'm always happy to help. Feel free to reach out to me. And have a great Thanksgiving if you're in North America, if you're in the US, or have an amazing holiday season if you're elsewhere.